I still hear the sound of the paper ripping in my head, like it was tearing straight through me instead of the check in her hands. We were standing in the middle of the bank, people staring, the fluorescent lights buzzing above us, and my sister, my own blood, looked at me like I was filth and screamed, "Get that low class out of this bank!" before tearing up the check I had been relying on to survive. I stood there shaking, humiliated, and all I could think was, how did we get here? How did someone who grew up next to me in the same house, with the same parents, turn into a person who would willingly destroy me in public just to feel powerful? And before I tell you the rest, I honestly want to ask, was I wrong for what I eventually did to her? Because in that moment, everything inside me snapped, and what happened after changed our family forever. The story really starts long before the bank incident. Years back when my sister Nora began climbing her way into the upper crust of society, or at least she tried to. We grew up poor, the kind of poor where rice and lentils were dinner 5 nights a week, and birthdays meant a store-brand cake with 1 candle. My parents were loving, hard-working people, but they had little. Nora, however, always acted like she was born for something better, something shinier. She was obsessed with image before she even understood what the word meant. She would steal my mom's makeup at 13, cry if she had to wear thrift store shoes, and talk about becoming someone important. Never really thought anything of it, because I figured she'd grow out of it. Kids get weird ideas sometimes, but she never grew out of it. She grew into it. By the time she finished college, thanks to student loans that my parents would be paying for until their backs gave out, she had mastered the art of pretending. She came from money. She learned how to talk like rich people, how to dress like them, how to slip into conversations with a casual, "Oh, my friends at the country club," even though she didn't have a single friend with actual money. Then she met Daniel. Daniel was wealthy, like old money wealthy. His family owned multiple businesses. He drove a car that cost more than our parents' house. And he had the kind of confidence that only people who have never known a real struggle can have. Nora latched onto him like a parasite finding the perfect host. And the thing is, it worked. Within a year, they were engaged. And within 2, they were married in a ceremony so extravagant it made my parents tear up. Not from pride, but from the realization that they were completely out of place. Nora barely acknowledged them at the wedding. She treated them like distant relatives instead of the people who raised her, fed her, and sacrificed everything for her future. And then came the final blow. After the wedding, she never really came home again. She visited occasionally, but always with that same superior tone. "You should really invest in better furniture," she'd say. Or, "Why don't you move into a bigger place? It's embarrassing, embarrassing." That word became her favorite. She used it like a weapon whenever she came around. Meanwhile, while Nora was living her newly polished life, mine was falling apart. Not dramatically at first, just slowly, like a rope fraying one thread at a time. I lost my job due to company downsizing. My landlord raised the rent beyond what I could afford. My health insurance lapsed, and I ended up with medical bills I had no way of paying. I tried everything. Side jobs, gig work, applying everywhere I could, but money dried up faster than opportunities appeared. My parents helped when they could, but they were old, tired, and struggling themselves. I didn't expect them to carry me. I just needed one thing, a loan. A temporary one, something to keep my head above water long enough to breathe. Naturally, I turned to the one person in our family who actually had money like that. Nora, I didn't want to, but I had no choice. She was my sister. Family helps family, right? At least that's what I believed at the time. I remember sitting in her enormous living room, feeling out of place on a couch that probably cost more than my car. She was scrolling through her phone lazily while I explained my situation. She barely looked at me until I finally said, "I just need a small loan. I'll pay it back in full within a few months. I promise." She sighed dramatically, like I was inconveniencing her by merely existing. "Look, I don't know," she said. "Daniel and I have a lot of expenses right now. And honestly, you really need to learn how to manage your life better. You can't always expect people to bail you out." I swallowed hard. "I've never asked you for anything before. I'm not expecting anything. I just need help temporarily." She looked at me with something between disgust and pity. "You know what's embarrassing? You coming here and asking for money like this. What will Daniel think if he finds out my own sibling is begging? It reflects badly on me, you know?" I felt something crack inside me, but I kept calm. "I don't need anything big. Just enough to cover my rent and bills until I get another job. She waved a dismissive hand. Fine, I'll think about it. I'll text you. She didn't text me for 2 weeks. During that time, I slept in my car twice. I sold half my clothes. I ate whatever was cheapest. Eventually, on a particularly desperate night when I had $20 left in my account, I swallowed my pride and messaged her again. And that's when she suddenly became generous. Too generous. She wrote back, "Actually, Daniel said we can give you a check. Come meet me at the bank tomorrow." I thought the nightmare was over. If only I had known that she didn't want to help me. She wanted to humiliate me. The next morning, I arrived early. I waited outside the bank, rehearsing what I'd say. "Thank you. I appreciate this so much. I'll pay you back." Quickly. All the lines you say when someone throws you a lifeline. Nora arrived 20 minutes late, sunglasses on, designer bag hanging from her arm. She didn't greet me. She just said, "Let's make this quick. I have a lunch reservation." We went inside, stood in line, and when we reached the counter, she pulled out a check already written. I breathed out in relief until I saw the amount. It wasn't a small loan. It wasn't even a reasonable one. It was enough to cover almost everything I owed. My eyes filled with tears because it felt like I could breathe again. But as I reached for it, Nora suddenly snatched the check, back against her chest, and looked at the teller with a smirk. "Actually," she said loudly, "I need to make sure this person understands something first. Person, not sister, not sibling. Person." And then she turned to me with venom, so sharp it made my stomach twist. "You don't get to take my money and walk around acting like we're equals," she snapped. "You're low class. You're irresponsible. You're an embarrassment to me. I'm only doing this because Dad begged me." I froze. "Dad begged you?" She rolled her eyes. "Obviously. Do you think I'd waste my money on you otherwise?" The teller awkwardly cleared his throat. The people behind us shifted uncomfortably. My face burned hot. I whispered, "Can we talk outside?" But Nora wasn't done. Oh no. She wanted an audience. She held the check up dramatically and said loud enough for half the bank to hear, "Actually, you know what? I don't think you deserve this." And then, looking right at me with a smile so cold it made my heart stop, she tore the check into pieces and let them fall to the floor like confetti. Then she screamed, actually screamed, "Get that low class out of this bank! She's making a scene." I wasn't making a scene. I hadn't even raised my voice. But suddenly all eyes were on me like I was the problem, like I was the one yelling. My knees went weak and I felt dizzy. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The teller gently asked us to step aside. Nora flipped her hair, grabbed her purse, and strutted toward the exit like she had just performed a public service. I followed her outside, stunned. "What is wrong with you?" I finally managed to say, my voice trembling. She didn't even look back. "Don't contact me again unless you actually get your life together. I can't associate with trash." Trash. That was the last thing she said before walking away. In that moment, something broke inside me. Not a tiny crack this time, but a full shatter. I stood there in the cold, staring at the torn pieces of hope scattered on the bank floor, and I promised myself that one day she would regret this. And I meant it. For weeks after, my life kept spiraling. I lost my apartment. I moved in temporarily with a coworker. I ate whatever cheap food I could find. But through it all, my anger simmered. Not petty anger, deep, righteous anger. I replayed her words every night. I replayed the humiliation at the bank, the smugness, the entitlement, the complete lack of humanity. And I thought, she can't get away with this. Not forever. And here's where the story shifts, because karma didn't just come for Nora. I helped it along. But before I reveal exactly what I did, I need to ask you again, what would you have done in my shoes? Seriously, pause for a moment and think about it. If your own sister dragged you into public just to tear you down, destroy your dignity, and laugh while doing it, what would you feel justified doing? Comment below before you keep listening, because what happened next changed everything. So a few months passed, and during that time, something interesting happened. Daniel's business, well, his family's business, started facing legal trouble. Apparently, the Department of Finance had launched an investigation into questionable accounting practices, offshore accounts, and tax inconsistencies. At first, it wasn't public. But things like that never stay hidden. Eventually, the news broke, and Daniel's perfect world began to crumble. Now here's the twist. Nora knew nothing about the investigation before it became public. But I did. You see, while Nora had spent years pretending to be above everyone else, I had spent years working actual jobs, meeting actual working-class people, and one of them, a friend, I met during a temp job, worked at the Department of Finance. I didn't ask him for details, because that would have been illegal. But I did vent to him one night over cheap takeout about how my sister treated me and how her husband walked around like his money made him. God, my friend didn't reveal classified info, but he did say something like, well, let's see how confident he feels in a few months. Some people in his family are being audited hard. I didn't connect the dots at the time. It wasn't until the news broke that it all clicked together. Now here's where things get morally gray. I didn't expose the family. I didn't cause the investigation. But when the news broke, the media was scrambling for statements, comments, background stories, anything they could get. And I happened to have old photos, old messages, and old stories that painted a very unflattering picture of Daniel's family's public generosity versus their private greed. Reporters pay for information, sometimes a lot. And I was broke, angry, and done being a victim. I sold what I had. Not lies, not fabrications, just the truth. The ugly truth that the world rarely gets to see because people like Daniel hide behind money and image. My contribution ended up in 3 major online articles, and those articles spread like wildfire. Within days, the family's reputation tanked. Business partners pulled out. Investigations intensified. Shares plummeted. And inside that crumbling mansion of lies, Nora began to panic. She called me for the first time in months. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. Her voice was high-pitched, breathless. Did you talk to anyone? She demanded. I played dumb. About what? You know what I'm talking about, she snapped. The articles, they mentioned things only someone in the family would know. I shrugged even though she couldn't see. Maybe the reporters did their research. She cursed. Do you have any idea what this is doing to me, to Daniel? If his parents lose their shares, we'll lose everything. I almost laughed. I thought you said money wasn't something you wasted on trash like me. She went silent, dead silent. Then she said, if you had anything to do with this, I swear. You'll what? I said calmly. Tear up another check? Call me low class again? Try it. She hung up. In the following weeks, things got even worse for her. Daniel's family froze her access to some of their assets. Daniel blamed her for the stress in their marriage. And then the best part happened. Daniel cheated on her, with someone even richer. When she found out, he didn't even deny it. He said, you were useful when my family needed the image of a stable couple. We don't need that anymore. When I heard that, I can't lie, I felt a twinge of pity. But only a twinge. Because when Nora finally showed up at my door one night, makeup smeared, hair messy, crying so hard she could barely breathe, I realized something. This was the same sister, who had looked me in the eye while tearing up the check that could have saved me. The same sister who had screamed that I was low class. The same sister who hadn't cared whether I ended up on the street. She collapsed into my arms sobbing, please. I have nowhere else to go. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the broken person underneath all the fake designer layers. For the first time in years, she looked human, vulnerable, small. I helped her inside. I made her tea. I let her cry. I listened. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. After she calmed down, she said, I'm sorry. For everything. I was a terrible sister. I nodded slowly. Yes, you were. She winced. She spent the night on my couch. In the morning, with red eyes and a cracked voice, she said, I know you probably hate me, but please, let me stay until I figure things out. This was my moment of choice, the revenge moment, the turning point. And I looked her dead in the eyes and said, Nora, I don't hate you. I just don't trust you, and I can't let someone in my home, who has already shown they're willing to destroy me. You need help, but not from me. Not yet. You need to fix yourself first. She broke down again and begged, but I stayed firm. I gave her money for a motel. Money I had now that my life had stabilized thanks to the articles I sold, and I sent her on her way. She left crying, but she didn't scream. She didn't insult me. She didn't call me trash. Some lessons only sink in when the world stops cushioning you. In the months that followed, Nora slowly rebuilt her life. Not with luxury, not with Daniel, not with the fake friends she used to flaunt. She rebuilt from the ground up, just like the rest of us have to. Real job, real apartment, real humility. She apologized again later, genuinely this time, and I forgave her. Not to make her feel better, but to make myself free. We're not close now, but we're not enemies either. We coexist. We check in on holidays. We talk like distant siblings who share a complicated history. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Because I finally learned that being family doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means boundaries. It means self-respect. It means not letting someone set you on fire and then cry when they feel the heat. So that's what happened. That's how the sister who once screamed at me in a bank ended up losing everything she had built on lies, and how I found my own strength in the process. If you were on my side, if you think I wasn't wrong for letting karma and consequences do their work, then like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what you think of this whole mess. I'll see you all in the next story.